Okay, we're back. Working on the Imperial electric dynamo for the Bessemer generator project here. Where I left off, I needed to make some new brush holder springs and pick up some new brushes, which I did. So first the brushes. Here's an original example. So pretty much unusable for what I want to do with this. And I mentioned I did have a local supplier of brushes, a place called Repco in Marlton, New Jersey. So I picked these up. They're a bit long, but of course I do have to bevel the edge where they are going to sit to the commutator, so I can sacrifice a little bit off the end there. These are electrographitic type brushes. That is the description of their composition. So what their composition is exactly, I'm not sure. I haven't really researched that. But these were the best, or the closest match to the originals based on their hardness. So, I was informed that by the supplier that these would be the best solution for my application. So, which DC Dynamo on a commutator. So, got those for those. And as far as the springs go, so here's the only mostly intact original brush holder spring. And I think I mentioned that this one, although it looks good, does have a crack right here. So, yep. So, picked up some wire. This is 24 gauge wire, so that's 55 thousandths. Picked up a whole spool of it. Now, I mentioned before that this was not a steel wire, and I thought it was like a brass, but turns out it's some kind of bronze, I was informed. So it apparently makes a good spring, but it's not as durable as I would have thought, being that that one and all three others have failed. So I just picked up some steel wire. This is called music wire, just to make some springs for it. And I watched a video by this old Tony, and this is pretty much exactly what he used. Again, this is just 24 gauge music wire, they call it. So here are my little experimentations or attempts to make the spring. And eventually I got to this here, which I think is a pretty good stand-in for the original. So it's a little bit different. The end here that engages the actual brush holder is a bit longer than original, which I think is better. I'll assemble one loosely, and I'll show you how it fits. There appear to be some differences, but once it's assembled, you'll see that it's quite a good stand-in. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the brush holder loosely assembled with the new spring. Here's the original. So it looks pretty good. You can see that although the original spring, the coils are fairly have a fairly greater spacing between them. Once they're in the holder, they do compress quite a bit. As you can see with the new spring here, the coils are pretty tightly compressed. So the coil spacing isn't even, I know that, but again, I'm not a factory. I'm not I'm not making these springs thousands and thousands at a time. So there's going to be some variation there. But that's the lightest tension position there, and it is quite easy or quite light. It snaps back though, but as I increase the position, now in the third detent, it becomes quite tense. So, and even more so, I could go back farther. Fifth detent, very tight now. I say tight, but I mean quite a bit more spring tension, not as though it's binding, but there would be more force acting to force the brush onto the commutator. So I think this is a success, and I definitely like the little tension arm here. I like that it's higher up than the original was. You can see that if I mean, based on the length of the arm here, the loop itself was right in the groove. Now it's a bit easier to manipulate and adjust. So, and I'm sure somewhere there's a chart for brush tension based upon brush composition, application, and you know, surface area of the brush. So I'll have to kind of search for that and determine. I know that last time I did brushes on an old Caterpillar generator, I forget what their spec was, like 14 or 18 ounces of force, of downward force onto the brush. So I actually bought a spring scale, almost like a fish scale, when I was resetting the brushes on that to get the correct tension. So I'll have to look at it and see if I can find that specification. But so that spring is good, and I've got to make 3 more, and I think maybe I'll catch some video of that. So stand by. Alright, here's my setup for winding these little springs. I'll zoom in here. You can see I stole this idea, or borrowed maybe, directly from this old Tony's video. What I've got is a piece of 3/8 stock with a 1/4 inch Allen screw in it, and that's just enough to clamp the wire. I've found that keeping the natural curve in the wire here, zoom out, keeping this natural curve actually yields a better spring, or more uniformly formed coils than just trying to straighten the wire. And this may be crude, but all I'm doing to tension the wire is holding it with a pair of pliers. Hold the wire straight and allow the machine to coil it up. When I'm done, I just release the wire from the pliers, let the machine just spin, and then shut it down. I found that it takes 7 3/4 revolutions to achieve the proper number of coils and have the coils terminate in the correct position. So I've got the generator running outside, as you can probably hear. Zoom back in, put the lathe in gear, and we'll wind a spring, see how it comes out. The piece of wood here is just to prevent anything from hitting the ways. If this little mandrel was to break, because it is quite thin on the edges here on the outside of the screw, or if I drop the pliers or something, just to protect the ways a little bit. So, grip that. Safety glasses are a requirement. Put some tension on it and wind. Let's see how that came out. Sorry. Okay, not the most uniform coils. So there's you get a gap there, but not that bad. The ends terminate in the correct way. So let me wind 2 more while we're rolling here, and we'll see how consistent they are. Okay. Oh, went a little bit long on that one. A little bit long. It's funny, I went a little bit long on that one, but the coil spacing is nice. Yeah, it went about a quarter turn too long. I should be able to straighten that out a little bit and save that one. If not, I'll just wind another one. I got plenty of wire. So let's try to make one more here. Went long on that one too. Well, I've succeeded in making two that are identical, more or less. That one's got nice tight coils as well. But they're both long. Alright, let me cut some more wire. Alright, I'm back, got two more pieces. Let's see if we can get this right. That one's better. Let's see if I can make one more like this. Can you see how bent the mandrel is just from me tugging on it? And I'm not pulling with a lot of force, just enough to keep the wire straight. But it is quite thin on the sides of the screw here. I don't think that is affecting the spring quality so much. It's just a little annoying. went long on that one as well. Alright. I think we can make those work though. Out of those 5, coils on that one came out real nice. Out of those 5, we can make them work. Make a couple of them work. Alrighty. Alrighty, well after all that, I managed to come up with 3 fairly consistent springs. So I'll just take you through real quick, making the bends and all the other stuff to complete one. So I got a pair of pliers here that I actually ground these down, ground the jaw nice and thin here, so I can grip it here. Oops, sorry about that. Got to be in the camera shot. Just so happened that the width of the jaws of this pair of pliers was almost exactly correct to form this little tail right here. So I'll grip that at the end there. Job's a bit finicky. Try to match an original as close as possible. A bit more. Looks about right. Maybe need a bit more. Cut the tip off and bend it maybe a bit more. It's difficult. I know that there's pliers made for this kind of work with jaws that are thin enough to be able to get close to each other like that. That's pretty good there. Trim it off. Make sure you wear your safety glasses. These little pieces go flying. So still a bit long, but it's pretty good. Okay, and bending the little hook on the end here, just cut it to length, trim it down a little bit. Kind of have to guesstimate here because I didn't write down the length that I cut this one to, so just trying to visualize where it needs to be. And bending that hook involves a little bit of heat, so just take a matte gas torch. Let's see here, another pair of needle nose. This may be kind of hard to get in the shot, especially with the white backdrop. That's probably not helping anything, is it? Let me move over a little bit. Stand by. Alright, let's try this. Got the Caterpillar connecting rod back for the backdrop here. I don't get it too hot. Just enough that it'll start to bend at the tip there. I don't want to damage the heat treat of the whole thing. See, I went too long there. I'm going to try to not heat the coils. That out a little bit. Start to bend a bit higher up. This must be be painful to watch for those of you that are used to doing this kind of work. But like I said in the previous video, this is just me learning here. Figuring it out by trial and error and not investing a whole lot of time into, you know, acquiring all the proper gear and all that stuff. So I can only do what I can do here. It's looking a bit better. So let's see what we came up with. Yeah. It's no good if you lose it, is it? So, again, there's some inconsistencies, but they are homemade springs. You can see this is the original that I showed you. This one's got a better, more uniform stack of coils than this one, but it should perform about the same. I'm going to mount it up in that brush holder and see if it does. Alright, so here's my second attempt at a spring. Here's the first. This is the one that I assembled in this brush holder originally. And I assembled this one just to get an idea of how consistent they are. Again, the original. So yeah, it's there it is in the weakest position here. So I'm pleased with it. I don't know why you need that much tension. So I imagine that they're going to probably sit in this third slot right here. Grab a brush. So yeah, it's going to hold something like that when it's in its holder here. Maybe a bit more, maybe the fourth slot. Or sorry, yeah, the fourth. Yeah, that's about right. So I call that a success. Just need to form the remaining two here, and at that point can start assembly and testing. Thanks for watching. Oh Jesus. If I don't break everything first, we'll have a working dynamo when this is done.